Hey everyone, and welcome back to Lauren's Take. As promised, this is my review for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie. Oh my gosh, y'all. I saw it opening night, so last night. So many feelings, so many emotions. Let's just get right into it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and let's get into it. Alright, so as you can see, I'm back home. And you know, the good thing about this, I don't have to film at school because, yeah. But anyway, y'all, I'm just gonna go right into it. You know, the whole thing about this movie, I was really excited about it. I really enjoyed the novel, The Songbirds and, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I read it back, I think, like 2 years ago, I want to say in 2021, so like 2 years after it was published. I just didn't get to it at first. At first, I remember when I first heard about the story, I'm like, why do we care about Snow? Like, ew, he's a horrible person. But then, like, I read the book and I was like, oh, so this is why he's as bad as he is. And I think the movie did a phenomenal job of doing that, right? Of, like, getting us to, like, one, root for him for, like, most of the movie. And then you get to that point when he switches up. Oh, wait, one sec. Spoilers again, of course. You know, I'm sorry, y'all. I wish I could do a review without spoiling stuff, but it's really hard, especially if I'm trying to talk about it in reference to the novel. The novel, again, came out in 2019. It is the prequel to the Hunger Games films. It is not Hunger Games films, really, Lauren. The Hunger Games story, so novels and the movies. So it's technically a different story, but it's not, because it's about President Snow when he was 18. He was and it was about the 10th Hunger Games. So what is so cool about this story in general is the fact that the 10th Hunger Games is the time they introduce mentors, right? And so the first year of mentors, they were actually academy students. And so Snow was actually one of the students who were, in the movie, how they phrased it by saying that they were kind of like the top of their class. So it was like the top 24 or so students being mentors to the tributes that would be, you know, called in the reaping and have to serve in, or have to participate in the Hunger Games against their will. And so the biggest thing that, you know, everyone is getting everything. Coriolanus, aka President Snow, that's his first name. I think we all knew that. But anyway, he and Dean Highbottom, they don't have the best relationship. We find out why, but they don't have the best relationship. And so Highbottom literally gives him the girl from District 12. I know y'all know what that means, Katniss, aka, but also we know even with Katniss, a lot of people were like, oh, she's not going to make it. You know, she comes from District 12. Like, a lot of the big things that are in the novel as well as in the movies, and I think it was even in the Hunger Games books and movies, it's the fact of, if you come from District 12, most likely you're not going to win because you don't have a lot of means, right? And especially in Katniss's situation, she was the breadwinner for her family. She was hunting. She was taking care of her sister Prem. She was helping her mom because her mom wasn't able to do a ton of stuff. So thinking about that is a similar situation with Lucy Gray, except Lucy Gray is a part of, like, the Covey, which is a whole family. And familial group, if you will, but they're not necessarily related. But anyway, so Snow, of course, gets Lucy Gray, and then they are the mentor tribute pair. The difference with this, though, Snow, like, at first is like, oh, you know, why did I have to get her? Why did I have to do all that and whatnot? But it ends up being one of the best things that ever happened, except a lot of things happen. So love connection. So that's really funny because, of course, that would never have happened with Haymitch and Katniss, thank God. And it's really interesting to see this, like, dynamic. And so I think that's one of the coolest parts about this novel in general, how it is, like, this was the first Hunger Games mentors were introduced. It was students, not former victors. And, you know, this is also when the idea of betting on the tributes becomes popular, and it was all Snow's idea. So I think that's kind of like the cool aspects when you're thinking about, like, how the Hunger Games operates. And even though they are extremely problematic and extremely just terrible, I think it's awesome to be able to see how in in the story how all of this kind of came to be. And so I think that's one of the greatest things about the novel. And so I'm just gonna, keep going. That's like the main basis, but then of course something goes awry in order for Snow to land on top, as he says multiple times throughout the novel, and as the movie he says multiple times, thankfully. He cheats to make sure Lucy Gray wins. So that's one of the biggest things that is like, ooh. And then that kind of spins the whole story around from the capital to District 12. Really, he was supposed to go to District 8, but he was like, nah, I'm gonna go to District 12 because I want to see Lucy Gray again. And it's so funny because he's like a lovesick puppy, but then, we'll talk about that in a second. But overall, just initial thoughts. I just want to give like a basis for anyone who maybe have forgotten about the overall story. I was trying to reread the whole book before I went to go see it. School happened, so I didn't finish it. I didn't get far in the book at all. I think I got to like page 180 something before I saw the movie, but anyway. I had read enough that it was easy to follow along in the movie, and it was funny because I was the only one in my family who had read it. And so people were like, oh my gosh, this happened? I was like, yeah. And I was able to warn them ahead of time because the movie, y'all, I think that the biggest thing that we have been saying, like a lot of people in the book community, like book lover community, is the fact that Hunger Games is like one of the one series, like novel series, whose adaptation is like perfection, right? It is so good. The thing is, we don't cringe when we watch the movies. We actually love the movies. There are people who, some people love the movies more than the books, which is really funny to me. But it's like, no, don't do that. But I will say, like, the movies are phenomenal. I remember Hunger Games was the very first series that I got involved with. Like, the very first series I became obsessed with, right? Like, I liked Nancy Drew randomly when I was little, but, like, this was the first YA, like, contemporary YA fantasies or dystopia series that I read. And it was because I watched the first movie and I became obsessed with it. And I was like, I need to read the books, right? And so I read all 3 books and became obsessed, right? So Hunger Games will always have a very special place in my heart because it was the first series. As you know, my very first video on the channel was connected to Mockingjay Part 2. So, a little quick thing. The fact that that's like literally how many years later? 8 years later? When my very first video on the channel was for Mockingjay Part 2, and I think 8 years later, we're talking about the prequel. Like, I remember when that wasn't even a thought. When Mockingjay Part 2 came out, we didn't even think we were going to get another book because we only had the first 3 books and we were like, oh, okay, so that's over, depressed. We were like, crap. But then, like, we got news, I think, late 2018 or early 2019. I know the book came out in May 2019, that we were getting the prequel, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's just going to be a movie. And then we found out it was going to be a movie. We're like, oh my gosh, there's going to be another movie. So we were happy about it. We weren't stressing about it because the movies were already so good. So I knew going in, I didn't have high expectations for the film. I didn't. I was just wondering how they were going to, how were they going to make the book into a film? And they slayed, as always. I feel like the biggest thing that I just love about him, and I was saying this to Amber yesterday, or this morning, I think it was probably last night, and I was saying to her, I was like, the thing about it is, it's no beggar joy to know that you can give your book off to someone like Suzanne Collins. The fact she can give her book off to Nina Jacobson and Francis Lawrence, the director, and Nina Jacobson is the producer of the films. They both worked on many Hunger Games films. I think Nina worked on all 4 of the Hunger Games films. Francis worked on the Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2. And they both worked on Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And so thinking about you being able to give your novel to someone and know that it's going to be in good hands, I think it's a joy. And I'm happy for Suzanne because her books were done justice. Like, the amazing detail that went into these movies. Like, half the time you have scenes that are almost like exactly in the novel that are so seamlessly put in the film that it's just like, oh my gosh, right? It's like one of those things that, with Disney making all of their remakes, it's like one of those things that you're like, I don't know if you want to, because it ends up being too much like the original thing. This, when you have a novel or book to movie adaptation series that's so good, it's like that situation of like you're not even stressed about it. I think the only reason I got a little scared was when I saw the critic score. Amber told me the critic score, she loves looking at the critic score of everything. And the critic score was like low. It was like it was not close to the Hunger Games films. And so I was a little worried. I was like, I'm like, but I think I've heard a lot of people say that it's like almost identical to the book. So I know it has to be better than that. And I was right. The audience score ended up being 90%. I found that out, I think, yesterday or Thursday. And so knowing that, I was like, oh, we good then. We good. And so I watched the film and I loved it, y'all. I literally I have no complaints. The only complaint I have is literally like the mind is so minor because it was just me being myself. And because there's a lot more love connection between Snow and Lucy Gray. And I think that would have added more oomph to the film in terms of their relationship and why the fact that she leaves is so just like angering to him and why it causes him to go in the spiral that he does and that we see in Hunger Games. I think that would have been great to see because we really see it in the novel. But again, I just, that's literally my only problem with it. I think all of the edits that they made to, fit the movie better, that worked. I think everything really worked. I think it's just great. I have no complaints. It's so nice. I have no complaints. Oh my gosh, I really, 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 really enjoyed this movie. But let me go into the actors' performances and then I'm just going to give my overall rating. But yeah. All right, so coming into our lovely actor portrayals, I'm so excited that the SAG-AFTRA strike is now over because actually Lionsgate was one of the first companies to sign on to the deal that the SAG-AFTRA presented. So the cast were actually able to promote even before the strike was over. So it was like 2 weeks, I think, or a week and a half or so before the strike was actually over. They were able to promote it because Lionsgate had signed the deal. And so, of course, they were able to do it for the Lionsgate film. So shout out to Lionsgate. Thank you. But anyway, I loved Tom Blythe as Coriolanus Snow. Oh my gosh, that man. Whew. The buzz cut, that messed the girl up. But anyway, aside from that, he just ate. He ate the role. He did it. He did it, y'all. I think he did a really great job of demonstrating how Snow is at the beginning of the novel and for most of the novel until he starts getting into those moments where he has those really just sick moments of like, he will turn on his friend Sejanus. He will do that to him. And all to protect himself, and the thing about Snow, he's all about control. He's all about control. And I think the biggest scenes for me with him, the scene where he had to go in the arena to get Sejanus, oof, he like ate that whole scene up. And then when he ran and he like jumped over the ticket entrances things, I was like, child, he just ran over it so fast. I don't know if that was a stunt double or that was Tom, but either way, it looked amazing. And then another scene that is really sticking with me, is the scene where Lucy Gray leaves him and he loses it. He was like, all I've done for you? I was like, boy, are you kidding me? But it's also like, I knew this was happening, but it was also like, he slayed that scene so much because it showed how Snow is so controlling. Like, it was just perfectly, like, he understood the assignment, y'all. He really understood the assignment. He took some time with that. And I think that was so great to be able to see, visualize and everything. Like, you could tell that he really cared about Lucy Gray, that he was really hearing about things, but then he also was so contradictory. And I think that's the character. Like, he's such a horrible character, but he's such a good character. He's so dynamic and so, like, he's not flat. He's not static, and I love it. And so I think Tom did a phenomenal job of just bringing young Snow to life. I think the final scene that I just loved tremendously was the final scene. I really like the last, I don't know, 8 minutes or so of the film. That the timing's off, but it's just when he goes into his like era of not the buzz cut, but the next haircut, the next hairstyle. They had showed it quickly in the trailer, and I was like, ooh. And he just like, that's Snow. And that's when you're like, oh no, that's President Snow right there. And it was just so like, it was so fun. It was so fun. And he just, oh my gosh. Tom, dude, 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 stars for you alone, my dude. He nailed it. Let's move on to some other actors, but Tom did an amazing job. Rachel Zegler, love her. You know, I'm so excited for her because I think she's literally my age. I think she's maybe like a year older than me, if that. So it's so fun to be able to see her like really flourishing and getting all of these humongous roles. Like she was in West Side Story, of course, as Maria. She also is going to be Snow White in the live action Disney remake. That's been controversial, but I don't care. I'm excited for her because sis can sing. And then she, of course, plays Lucy Gray Baird in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. She ate that role. She did such a phenomenal job. Like, she had such a phenomenal job. She really personified Lucy. She had those moments of that confidence that she has and the just wittiness and she has so much charm. She was able to exude it so well. Her singing, oh my gosh. Like, I knew Rachel could sing, but like, it's so nice to be able to see that. But it's just, so great. I just absolutely enjoyed it. And then I'm trying to think of some other stuff with her. I think she did a really phenomenal job of being able to like really test Snow in that last big scene they have together when she goes out in the rain and really runs away. And also like right before them where she was like, you said you killed 3 people. Who's the third person? And like she was like, oh my gosh. So I'm trying to think of like all of my favorite scenes with her. I think definitely the very first scene that we see her when she gets called at the reaping, the whole part putting the snake in, and the mayor's daughter's dress, her singing, her just taking over, and the bow. The bow was what I was obsessed with in the trailer. I was like, yes, Rachel, yes! Like, I just loved it because it was so, that parallel between Lucy Gray and Katniss. And I was just like, oh my gosh, yes. I love that so much. She slayed that. I love that final scene in the Hunger Games where she is, when she pretty much comes out as the victor, but of course, by someone cheating, aka Snow. And she's just letting the snake just roll out up over her, and she's just singing, and then she looks in that camera. I'm like, child. And how it incites everyone in the school to say, get her out, get her out, get her out. And poor Dr. Gall, my girl Viola Davis, we're about to talk to her about her in a second, but she was like, get her out. And I was like, ooh! So she slayed that. I loved it so much. And then I'm trying to think of another scene. I'm sorry I have like 50 texts going off. Let me put my computer on Do Not Disturb so it won't do that. But anyway, another thing that I really, really loved, her singing The Hanging Tree. Oh! Y'all don't know, like, the obsession we all have with that song, when J-Law sang it, we were all in it. But when Rachel sang it, like, Rachel, oh my gosh, she gave it so much depth, and it was so fun to just hear her singing it and just like singing it to yourself, like, are you coming to the tree? Like, she added some oomph to it. I was like, okay, love that. So those are like probably the 3 big scenes, or 4. Those like 4 big scenes to me that like really stuck out to me. I really enjoyed Rachel as Lucy Gray, Viola Davis as Dr. Gall. I swear. When I first found out that sis was playing Dr. Gall, I was like, of course she is. Of course she is. That queen? Yes, of course she is. And did she eat everything and leave no scraps? She did. Rent was due. She did the thing. I mean, were we shot? Like, it's Viola freaking Davis. Come on, y'all. Like, come on. She just, like, you know, the funny thing about this is my mom and dad went to see it with my sister and I because, one, my dad likes the Hunger Games, so he went to go see it for that. But my mom went because Viola played in it. And she was like, you know, she doesn't actually really like the Hunger Games, but she was like, I'll go because Viola's in it. You know, Viola Davis is her favorite actress, and of course, why not? You know, like, it's Viola Davis. But anyway, I just absolutely loved, her as Dr. Gall. She just, oh my gosh. She just ate it up. She just really ate it up. Like, no complaint. I loved every single scene she was in. I really loved the scene where she tells Snow to go get Sejanus. That scene was, like, so fun because it was, like in the middle of the night. And she's like, you need to go get your boy. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. She was like, he is not about to make a mockery of my games. And I just loved, she was just a queen. Oh my gosh. Like, Viola just, she's a goddess. She's a legend. I love her so much. And she just, like, she's completely ate that whole roll up. And, you know, Peter Dinklage as Highbottom, oh my gosh, he did a really great job, and I really loved the final scene. Like, I think that was my favorite scene with him in it. Because it was kind of talking about how the Hunger Games was all a joke. A lot of people, Amber and I've been looking at Twitter and seeing how many people are like, when you find out the Hunger Games was literally a drunk joke, and you're like, what the heck? And the fact that he didn't want him to actually come to existence, and it's of course because of Snow's dad that happens. And it's, like, really, really, really crazy to me to think about that. And I think that scene where Snow walks out and Highbottom drinks the morphine drink and it has rat poison in it. That's what was in it, y'all. That was, like, in the book, we don't see what happens to Highbottom. We just know that that's what's going to happen. Like, Snow, like, kind of describes it in his internal thoughts, and it ends with Snow lands on top. And so I think it was great that Tom ended up saying, like, Snow lands on top, like, right before he left, because then he did. And then, you know, then you had that final moment. I love Josh Andres Rivera. I think that's his whole name, or Riviera. I'm not 100% sure. I will correct it if I'm wrong. Loved him as Sejanus. I think he did a phenomenal job. I really like Josh. You know, him and Rachel are dating. I love them. They're so cute. But anyway, he did an amazing job as well. I think the whole scene where, you know, they have Marcus hanging up in the arena and he, like, loses it. That scene, I remember seeing it in a trailer. I was so excited for it because that is such a huge scene in the book, or in the novel more so. And I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think of another scene with him that I really loved. I think that scene between him and Snow where Snow records him, I think is really huge because he's like, I thought you were trying to help me out. He was like, no, I wasn't. I was trying to, he was like, you're annoying me. You're going to ruin the whole thing. And so, you know, I think he just did a phenomenal job. And oh my gosh, yeah, Josh, he slayed. Hunter Schafer as Tigress, I loved her as Tigress. She added literally, like, perfectly casted, perfectly executed. I loved it. I loved her as Tigress. And yeah. Real quick things that I think that's all the main cast. I loved everyone. I have no complaints about this film. Like, none. It's just so good. I want to see it again. I really want to see it again. After I left, and it was funny because Amber had shown me this tweet, I think, from, I will call it a tweet. It's not an X. That's so dumb. Anyway, a tweet from the day before, I think, on Thursday, when people are like, when you leave the theater and you want to go right back in, it is like, oh my gosh, it's so true. It is just, and it's so, oh my gosh. But kind of coming back to, like, big, just, like, aesthetics things. Oh, the guy who played Lucky Flickerman, he ate too. Oh my gosh, he was so good, so funny. He added that comedic relief that we needed because y'all know Hunger Games is dark. But he did a phenomenal job, and it's so easy to see that this is definitely, like, Caesar's like relative, 100%. I don't know what else. What else did I really want to talk about? The music. So if, as someone, again, who's been obsessed with Hunger Games, I've watched all of those films, I don't know how many times. When you could hear songs, iconic music, like score from the original films, like, I would get emotional at those moments, because Amber and I were like, oh my gosh, and like freaking out. And then also, I think it was a scene, I want to say it was when she was singing the hanging tree. I think at one point we even heard like the tune a little bit to that, like, I may be making that up, but I know there was like certain scenes that are like specific to Katniss. The movie ended with the same music that the first film ended, not the first film, the second film ended with. So Catching Fire, you know, when Katniss is staring up at the screen, she's like, you know, that music. It was, oh my gosh, I was freaking out in the film. I was so excited for that. I was so excited for that. That was just, oh my gosh, y'all. I was so excited. And I think the best part, one of the best parts, I won't say it's the best part, but one of the best parts of the film was the ending. And not because I wanted to end. I didn't want it to end. It was, the screen went black after, you know, Snow was just looking up and he was just like, you know, like, this is Snow. And then it's like, black screen. And then we hear Donald Sutherland, as our old favorite, President Snow, say, "It's the things we love most in this world that destroy us." And then they brought in the whole logo for the film with the crazy music. Y'all, if that is not how you end a movie, I was like, y'all, we need to come up with another story. I need more. That scene, or that conclusion, it makes you emotional, because like everyone in the theater was like, oh, it's Snow. It's President Snow. It's President Snow. And it's like so exciting. Oh my gosh. Y'all. Anyway, let's rate the film. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. No complaints aside from the love story moment. That movie was so well done. It was worth the wait. It was worth my time. It was a perfect adaptation of the novel. It did a great job. It cut some parts that, you know, when I sat and thought, I'm like, yeah, the part's not necessarily important. They really stayed true to the book. They had almost so many lines directly from the novel, the scenes directly from the novel, the attention to detail, like Lucy Gray's dress, like that was perfectly connected to the novel. Snow, just, oh my gosh, his hair transition, the transition throughout, the craziness of the novel definitely showed true in the film. I knew the film was going to be a little more not gory, but more violent, I would say, than the Hunger Games films, and that's saying a lot, because the Hunger Games films are really gory and really violent. But these are, I mean, I knew it was, and I warned my family about it. You know, it was tough to watch. There were times I had to turn away, but I knew that it was coming. So it was like one of those things, like, it's the Hunger Games. Like, what do you expect? So I'm not even going to take points away from that, because that was in the novel. And I think they did a good job of actually toning it down, because I think the novel was a little more graphic in that. So I appreciated that. So I wasn't going to be vomiting. But yeah, 5 out of 5. Loved it. So get to the movies now if you haven't seen it. Okay, everyone, that wraps up my lovely review of the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie. I, again, really, really enjoyed it. I thank you for sitting and watching this video. I really just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you for watching my trailer reaction to Percy Jackson. Already, we have, like, the last time I checked, it was like 180 something views. So I really appreciate you all for watching that video and just giving all the love that this year has been for all the videos. I really appreciate you all, and welcome to the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. And now to you who is watching this video and not subscribed, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And also make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't give it a thumbs down, that's just rude. And I hope you have a lovely day. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Hope you have a lovely holiday week situation. Yeah, you know, all the things. I hope everyone's doing great. Happy holidays. Enjoy life. And stay tuned for another Lawrence Tate video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.